This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the fellow who has a hyphen in my name. The hyphen is silent, but I am anything but that. Living Attentively is brought to you by Respectonomics. And it's called Living Attentively because it's the principle of paying attention. Living Attentively divides its messages into two corridors. One deals with business life, and the other one deals with personal life. And here we're going to be talking about the business life, and we're talking Living Attentively, brought to you by Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I am the voice of Respectonomics. I'm also the year of Respectonomics. That means I'm willing and wanting to hear your observations and your insights into what we're talking about. We're also prepared, able to share these opinions in a more direct basis, and that means with workshops, presentations, speeches, and the like. And we believe that living attentively is becoming a key component of how society will operate, because so much is happening at the moment that is injurious, is dangerous, is destabilizing, because we're not paying attention. So living attentively, in this one, we're going to be talking about the art of goal keeping. This is a business-related one, but I think it's also one that we should hear about at a personal level. So much of business is based on goals, and I have a feeling that a goal is a very dangerous subject. A goal is something where the puck goes across the line and we immediately think in terms of winning and losing. And if we think in terms of winning and losing, that is also a sense or a philosophy that migrates, mutates into the way in which we treat our customers. We win, they lose. And I think a lot of us as customers today, or recipients of corporate behavior, corporate offerings, feel that there's a relationship that's gone into win-lose. And the answer is the corporation is designed to win and we are designed to lose. And I think we have this feeling that we are falling behind. Goals are, shall we say, a goal is almost a sterile word. And I think it's also interesting that if you change the lettering around a bit, it comes out as the word jail. And therefore, we can become imprisoned and captive to these goals without understanding the benefits of what we're really trying to do. So let's take this whole principle of goals and find out what happens if we rework it, revitalize it, re-energize it. And what we're looking at here is, if you think of a goal, we're thinking in terms of a destination. Now, destinations have a problem because you kind of think, well, I've got there and what do I do next? But what we're going to talk about here, we're going to talk about an idea where we're going to call it the POC Protocol. Now, the POC Protocol is going to be a new movement. It's going to be called the POC movement, the POC movement. And POC stands for port of call, port of call. And you think of a port of call as a destination. You could also call it a goal. But we're going to be talking about this POC. And POC, you may in fact all know this, it's actually got an abbreviation that's used already. One is point of contact, POC, point of proof of concept. It's sometimes referred to as a person of color. We're going to say, and by the way, POC also stands for point of care, but we're going to say that POC in the corporate world stands for personal outstanding commitment. Personal meaning it's individual, outstanding because it's really special, and commitment because a commitment is being made. And when a commitment is made, it is a joint commitment. It's very hard to make any kind of commitment that hasn't been shared with someone else. One of the problems with the goal setting in the corporate world is how often a goal is imposed upon us. Your goal is A, B, and C. Bring in more dollars, bring in more clients, bring in new marketing techniques, whatever they are. But it is not actually shared. It is not a collaborative kind of approach. When we talk about commitment, We think in terms of co, meaning together, and the mitto, that we're going to send together. That's the Latin for you. But we're going to commit, therefore, to a joint project. And the joint project here is we're going to aim for this port of call. If you aim for a port of call, you think of two things. You think about what preparations you need to make the journey, and if there's going to be any side trips on the way, and you think in terms of when you're going to get there. There's all kinds of things. Port of call is a very useful concept. If we look at the port of call then as a goal, let's take this back to the ground zero. And the first one is to understand the purpose of the trip. If I say I am going to make a trip to Salzburg, you might very reasonably say, and in fact, you get this question at the customs or the immigration desk, don't you? What is the purpose of your trip? And one of the problems with goals, as they call them, is we never quite, well, quite often, never's a big word, but we don't often get a purpose. So somebody will say, you need to bring in more dollars or more clients, whatever it is. What is the purpose of that? And is not easily necessarily answered. But if we know what the purpose of the trip is, we are far better, more likely to be prepared for it. There's an old saying, you ask somebody the way to some destination, to Salzburg, you say, can you tell me the way to Salzburg? And the hilarious, so-called hilarious answer is, well, I wouldn't start from here. Actually, that is a very apropos comment. In goal setting, are we starting from the right place? In order to get somewhere, you would actually say, I need to be at an airport or I need to be at a train station, wherever I need to be to get to where I need to get to. And it is an absolutely fair statement that if we're going to look at our goals in life, we need to examine where we are and whether we in fact have the wherewithal to get to where we want to get to. And on top of that, understand the purpose of the trip. If we understand those 2 points, that we are where we are and we understand the purpose and we can work those two together, then we can think in terms of preparation. How many times are goals set by a corporation that lead us to, well, here's the goal, but you're not actually given the tools to do it? And there are 3 tools that are absolutely essential in order to meet a goal. In the sales world, if you will, or in the business world, we're talking about the 3 things you need. One of them is product knowledge. And product knowledge may sound like, well, I know my products. But here's an extraordinary statistic, that if you and I study our product for half an hour a day for 5 days a week, so between the hour, let's say between 8 o'clock and 8:30 in the morning, you study your product. You pick up a manual, you pick up a sales description, you pick up a technical magazine, technical discussion, an economic overview, whatever it is, half an hour. We are put, and I'm not sure of the exact mathematics of what I'm saying, but you are in the top 5% decile range of knowledge in your industry. Knowledge is motivating, not only because when you know something, it's fun to share it, but also it's motivating in the sense that customers and clients, people on the outside, they always know when your knowledge is prepared. So having prepared information is a great starting gate. Secondly, you need also to be able to know how to interface, how to engage with other people to bring this product, this service, whatever it is, to people. How often are we told, you need to do this, that, and the other? They haven't even given you a full product description. And even when they've done that, they don't necessarily give us the tools to be able to sell, to deliver, to bring this product. Can you imagine getting into a train and you're on your way to this destination and you're on your way, but you don't actually know which train you should be on? That would be goofy. You're told very explicitly, you need to go to platform ABC, you need to get onto carriage ABCD, and so on. Therefore, when goals are being set, we need to understand the purpose, we need to know where we're coming from, and we need to know how to get there, to give people the tools to do the job. But there's another element here as well. And that is, we've talked about the product knowledge, we've talked about the engagement process, but we also need to have a psychological sense of well-being. If we feel comfortable in ourselves, comfortable with what we're doing, comfortable with the prospects of both ourselves and our corporation and the people with whom we work, those are the kinds of psychological supports that become invaluable in us in terms of presenting the products or the services to a customer or to a prospect. But if you do not have that psychological well-being, you can force yourself into doing it and say, well, my paycheck depends on it, so therefore I'm going to do it. But there's an enormous price that's paid for that. It comes out in frustration, anxiety, isolation. It comes out in a lot of nasty words. And you see people who, as it were, take it out on their families when they get home. They drive aggressively. There can be all kinds of repercussions. So having people in a psychologically well-placed place is very valuable to bringing together the concept of the reality of the product and on how it's going to be delivered. So we're now talking about this, what you might call this journey. So we've got a journey that says we're going to try and get to we're aiming at this port of call. Now, when you go to a port of call and you go on a journey, everybody knows that everybody's journey is always going to have some kind of interruption. Whether it's intentional or whether it's accidental, whatever it might be, there's always some kind of interruption. And one of the things corporations need to do is to understand that as we go to our port of call, as we travel along this road, there will be interruptions. And some of the interruptions are thoroughly enjoyable. Some of them need help. My car breaks down. I need the CAA. I need the AA. I need somebody to come and rescue me and to fix my tire that's blown or whatever it is. But we need to have that collaborative sense that when we're on that trip, there will be support coming from the various parts of the organization to help us on our way and to enjoy the trip as well. And when you're enjoying your trip and you take a sidebar trip, technically speaking, you're taking your eye off the end port of call. But the truth of the matter is you're also engaging with other people, seeing other opportunities, engaging in a sense of a wider concept of a bigger picture. In other words, experiential. So in other words, the journey is as much important as important of getting there. When you get to your port of call, there are two things that happen. One of them is you disembark, you unload. But if you're going to unload, at that point, it is transactional. So you're bringing this product to the customer at the end of the line, and it is transactional, and you say, I have come this place because I want to deliver something to you. And when I deliver something to you, it is of value, it is pleasurable, it has a transactional value, and we therefore, just like a boat that gets to a port of call, disembarks some things and it takes on some others. In this case, there's an exchange of values. And when we have that exchange of values, we then look at that port of call to say, what are we going to do next? A port of call is just what it sounds like. It's on our map. It's on our route. One of the problems with goals is they have a sense of finality to them. There's no finality. The truth of the matter is we're on a journey that we have places where we stop off, where we work with a customer, we work with a client, we work with a supplier, and whatever it is, we take stuff on and let stuff off the boat, and then we go on to the next port of call. It is a living experience, and the goal is not the final. The goal is an expression, and this is the key point, that when we set goals, they should not be the end, they should be seen as the means. And when we talk about the means, what we're really saying is we need to look at compensation and the values that we benefit from delivering a service as a measuring tool, not to aim at the measuring tool itself, but to do the things that are right, to do the things that bring transactional value to another human being. When we do that, we then create value. When we create value, we are entitled to the wealth that comes with that, the money, if you will, but that wealth isn't an end in itself. It is a measuring device of the value that we have brought. So we're recommending to move away from this concept of the goal, or it sometimes can be spelt the jail, to bring it to this POC where we in fact recognize that it is a personal, outstanding commitment, that we get there with the help of other people in the organization, we get there because we're leaving from the right place, and we get there because we know we can count on other people on our journey. We talked earlier about what does POC stand for. Point of contact. What could be more important than having contact with your customer? What about the proof of concept? What about being able to say, here are the defining benefits, and here is the proof that they work? Person of color. That means that our market is totally ubiquitous. It is lateral. It is functional. It is not hierarchical. We talk about the point of care. And one of the things that we can do is the extent to which we are cared for on our journey is the care that we can demonstrate to our customers. And when a customer believes that he is being cared for, that is a part of what produces a permanent or repetitive, consistent, repeat business. Care is a wonderful ingredient. And if you want to see care exhibited in another human being, all we have to do is to dignify that other individual. And when we provide dignity, we provide care. When we provide care, we provide continuity. And when we provide this continuity, we can actually stand up and agree that we have and are able to achieve our ultimate POC, the personal, outstanding commitment. This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley, and I rest my case.